Okay. Yeah, so GE. So write that down too. So GE is one of the big ones. Where's
actually attached together in the back. Dryer on top, it's all 120. Whether it's gas or electric, doesn't matter. It's all 120, you cannot separate them. Now that's the difference between a stackable unit and a laundry center. Who knows what the stackable units are?
Dryer on top.
Two front loaders on top of each other.
A dryer on top, a washing machine at the bottom. You stack them on
Put the
top.
washer on the bottom because it's the heavier piece and the dryer on top. And they usually have a bracket to hold them together, but they are usually not the full-size washers and dryers. They're a smaller unit. Okay? So understand what these are in comparison to what you have. Does your top load have an agitator? Is it a wash plate? Do you have a front load? Is the front load direct drive? Is your front load belt driven? How many of you seen a belt driven front load? What kind of cycle options do you have? Those you going through washers, how many cycle options do you have on these? You have your normal, you have your bulk, you got heavy duty, then you got linens, right?
Burn the press.
What else do you have?
Rinse and spin.
Quick wash, sanitation, self-clean. Self-clean may be on some of those washers.
Yeah.
So you need to know what options you have in your washing machines, right? What cycles do you use most?
Normal.
Normal or quick wash? Do you use a double rinse? How many of you use double rinse? You use double rinse?
Yeah. If you got a septic system, you don't do that.
Why not?
Because you are a little far, still your septic system.
Too much water going into your septic system? Okay. So, know what cycles you use the most and why. But when it comes to jeans and towels, I use heavy duty. It's going to take the extra weight to be able to distribute it better. It's going to wash it better. What was the last cycle used on your washer? Anybody remember what your last cycle was?
Quick wash.
Quick wash?
Normal. Rinse and spin.
Quick wash? Normal.
I went to the laundromat.
How many of you, your wife does all the laundry and you have no clue what we're talking about? There you go.
Honestly,
So,
Now, who does the laundry in your house?
Yeah, I do, but I still don't throw it the same.
So I have an arrangement. I do the washer loading and the washer to the dryer transition, and then my wife does all the folding.
That's how I do it.
That's the negotiation.
That's the best negotiation ever, bro.
That was the trade-off for not spending the extra money on the pedestal, so she didn't have to bend over to get all the stuff out. You know.
oh, there you go.
So I got my system down, so I got the doors open and I can pull them out, pull them in.
There you go. That was more of a system than I wanted to watch. What type of detergent do you use?
Tide or Gain.
Tide or Gain? The dollar store?
That is going to be a problem.
So how many of you know if it's a trisodium phosphate, if it's a surfactant, or
And it's in the
if
bag.
it's liquid, if it's HE? How many of you know what it is?
I just know if it smells good.
I know
It smells good, you can use it.
mine's high efficiency.
Yours is high efficiency, so it's an HE. How many of you use pods compared to the liquids? You don't use pods?
deal with pods.
Not a typical, because last time I was actually.
I don't deal with tides or I'm allergic to
All right, center guy, center.
It is not. They actually measure those out as per small, medium, and high loads. And if you actually look at which one you're buying, it will have different sizes of detergent pods that's going to tell you whether it's for small, medium, or large loads. If you get Purell from the dollar store, it'll actually say right on the front of it for small loads, for medium loads, for large loads. And the size of pod is actually different. Now Tide uses a single size. They expect everybody to have large loads. But it's just the difference in the manufacturers. You gotta know what's out there. Yeah. Okay, so what does the laundry, who does the laundry in your homes? We already discussed that a little bit. All right, so let's move on. So washer parts in the system, we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive on that. So how many parts over here can you see and tell me about?
13.
Okay, so somebody raise their hand. Somebody raise their hand, go ahead.
Alright, so the agitator is gonna spin left or right. It's gonna create the water.
What part's will spin left or right?
Sorry, that's gonna be that center where the fans are there. The
Here?
agitator itself. No, top part.
This
Top
up here?
part, yeah.
That part up there, okay?
So it does, it's gonna spin, it's gonna create the water to go up the walls to create an even flow of water, so the clothes aren't getting just wet on one side. Keep the clothes spinning, because of this, and helps them move around.
So here's another question. Why is it spiraling down?
Well, I mean, we don't want the water going up.
The cycle of clothes.
Oh, so that way they stay down, is that it?
It cycles the clothes, keeps it going from the bottom to the outside, right? So if this is loose on the top, you can actually pick it up and turn it. What is causing this to actually agitate? What is causing it to catch and agitate when it's spinning down?
The clutch.
No, it's not a clutch. Anybody ever heard the term auger dogs? So as it spins to turn down that one deal and the other part turns back, it releases, and then these dogs come out, they spring out, and they catch the top to turn again when it comes back the other direction. Okay? You can actually take those apart, take them out, put them back in. They're real simple to replace. Now, not all of them have that. There's several different drive systems, so you need to know what's in your washer. Okay? So we have a belt-driven system down here. We have what we call what going up through the center? Huh? No. This is the agitator in here. What's driving the agitator?
The post.
So yeah, it's going to have a center post and a gasket and everything in it, but what is that called, guys? You should have learned this yesterday.
Should
We'll
have.
get a little bit more into it in a little bit, but you can tell me what the transmission does.
Shift gears.
It controls if it's gonna spin one direction or the other, it changes that direction.
The transmission allows the drive to do what it needs to be doing back and forth and to go into a spin, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to get under here, you're going to get a little bit more in depth. Those that were on top loads, you already know that you have one assembly up underneath that actually engages to put that in the agitation or the spin modes that it needs to be. What is it? Somebody said it a minute ago. The clutch assembly. What drives the clutch assembly up there?
You have a,
Your little clutch motor?
yeah,
Yeah.
sends a signal and engages the clutch.
So it pulls that little cable, engages it where it needs to, right? Okay, so you know it's going to be belt driven, okay? So the motor's going to set off to the side, and it's also going to go around your pump probably to engage to drain your system, right? So over here, we don't see the motor, but we see the pump, the heater, the motor, the door lock, the sensor, okay? Your filter, your valve, your dispenser, your main control board. But look what's right here in the middle on your motor. Is this a belt driven or is it a direct drive? That's not a direct drive. If you see a separate motor sitting in there like you do on this one, it's going to be a belt-driven system. And we'll go into direct drives here in a few minutes so that you see exactly what the difference is.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you see the motor down there? So, okay, let's move on. So here's a top load washer. And here's some of the parts you may see in a, well actually that's a front load washer over there. So this is the front load washer. What do we have up here? Is a vent hose, your detergent dispenser, your flow meter, central control unit or your main control board or PCB, as some people call it. Your tub assembly, you got your outer and inner tub. You've got a belt driven here. What are these veins in here called inside the basket? I just gave you the answer.
Veins.
Oh, they're veins. They help agitate the clothes as it rotates back and forth, right? So you're going to see them on the back side of the drum, and you're also going to see them in the drum to help agitate the clothes, make the clothes work together to clean them, right? Yeah, go ahead.
So there's two variations as far as motors are concerned when it comes to the front load. You have direct drive and belt driven load.
Yep. Okay. Down here we have shock absorbers. How is this suspended? Does anybody know how this is suspended? It's got the big heavy duty springs on top, right? Okay. Of course, your drain pump. Your drain pump's got what in it, guys? Oh, it's got a new color in it. Do we have anything else before the impeller? Well, I was going to have that behind the impeller on the discharge side if it has a check valve in it. It's going to have a filter on the front side of it, right, to help pull out. How many of you have ever pulled those out and found bobby pins and
About $1.
found money, find coins? Baby socks usually tend to get found. Knee-high pantyhose, all sorts of stuff wind up in the back side of that pump. So just be aware some stuff can't get past that little strainer in there. Okay? Working on a laundry center. You get into a laundry center, there's two different ways to access them. So you have to pull off the front cover to access the washer. That's going to be your drive motor, your washer drum, your suspension rods. Everything that you're going to need is going to be in the front of that one. If you're doing the dryer, you're going to have to access it from the back. Okay? So door switch lids, okay? This is on a top load. This will be some of the tops you'll find on a front load. If you have one that's locked up and you start taking the washer apart, can you get to something to actually unlock that door and open it?
Yeah.
Has a little manual release on it, right? Do we have a manual release on the top load? Oh, can you get that door open?
Well, yeah.
Yes.
How are you gonna get the door open if it doesn't have a manual release?
You apply power to it, don't you, anyway?
No.
Take power off now.
You use a child lock and
So you can actually take the top off of the washer, screw it from the back, take the top off the washer, and you can actually go in and manually
switch it.
get it to switch out. It's magnetic especially. But the others, you can take a little screwdriver from the bottom, pop it in, pop the lid open, so you can go ahead and replace that latch if it's having a problem. Okay? Because they're just a little spring loaded, you may not be able to do it from the top, but you can actually get it from the bottom if you have to. So there is a way to manually open it, you just gotta know how to do it, okay? Let's go a little further. Washers won't start. Door lid will not lock or unlock. Top load washer won't drain or spin. So you have a drain and spin part of your washer that's not working. It might be your lid switch. Okay? Another thing on some top load washers, depending on the model, If that lid switch does not lock and you don't have the lid down, that washer will also not fill. So it may be a not filling problem if that lid switch has gone bad. Okay? So understand that that lid switch has a lot to do with some of the operations that's going on in your washer.
Which you said that's probably fairly common what we're gonna see out there. It seems that's probably the most stressed area as far as human interaction.
You will see that out there. It's not as common as you think it will be. They don't fail very often. But if you can't find anything else wrong and you're tested from the board, test the lid switch. You can also put this in test mode and test the lid switch to see if you hear it locking and opening. Okay? So there's ways to check this. Same thing with these. You can check these from the board. You can check these when you go into your troubleshooting settings. You can go in and say unlock and lock and see if that's going to be part of your problem. If it is, replace the door lock. If it's the door lock is tested fine in bypass or test mode, then you may have a board issue that when it's in normal wash or the wash that they use most of the time, it's not telling it to lock. You may have to change that board. So that's how you do your troubleshooting. You always test from the board. You use your test modes. You use your HOS. Okay. HOS can actually lock and unlock these door switches and help you test that right from the HOS app. That's why it's important to use HOS every time you use these. Okay, every time you do this. Okay, some of the special call-outs for these may be visual inspection of the door latch, door switch, and the door lid is locked. Most washers will have a manual release to unlock the mechanism. Okay. Otherwise, like I said, some of them you have the open in the bottom. You just go in with a small screwdriver, pop it, go ahead and get it open, and test it from there. Okay. Control panels, we got different types of control panels. Different types of cycles on them, different types of start switch buttons. Okay. Same thing up here, we got the digital panel. And then we got your control knob to select your washer cycle. You got your on and off switch, then you have your pause and start. And of course then over here, it says right on the front of this one has a direct drive motor. It's HE, gives you some of the quartered in for small load. No, you don't. HE has several different lines in there. If you look inside that cup, it's going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay? Small load is 1, large load is 2. You never should use over that. Otherwise, you're over soaping and over sudsing. What can over sudsing cause when you're using
Stains
the
in
washer?
the clothes, no drain.
Long drain cycles.
Foam, leaks.
Soap scum.
I've done that before, and like my washer spit out, like you see the suds running out of the washer. What was that?
That's because something was leaking and pouring the suds out, or it has a suds overflow. You put way too much to in there. It has a vent on the top of the tub. Sometimes they'll allow that to vent out.
Okay.
And it may vent out and drain out to the bottom and come underneath onto the floor. So if you overdid your suds that much, you way overdid it. So indications of failures will be unresponsive buttons and knobs, loose parts, no power. Again, if you take this to the normal load where it's set right here on this particular one, and you go to start, nothing happens. But if you take it over here and you put it on bulky load, heavy duty, bedding, well, some of those others, you push the start button and it works. What's wrong? Not your button. You push your button, it works to everything else, but on normal load it's not working. What can be your problem?
The turn dial.
Your user interface, turn dial section of your board. Because it's going to have this board, it's going to have this board, and it's all going to go back to the main computer board, right? These two boards here are actually hooked together by ribbon cable. You can order them separately. You're just going to have to get your selector indicator board and replace it. Also coming off your selector indicator board is your power on and your pause and start. Okay? This user interface board is for selecting your temp, your soil levels, your water depth, different things like that. Whether you want a delay start, whether you want a time to wash, all that stuff is done by your user interface board here. But then your selector user interface board is for your cycles. And believe me, as you turn back and forth so many times, some of them start to wear out inside, and that may be your problem. Real easy to check. If you just turn it over to heavy duty, the next one down, push start, it starts up. You stop it, clear it out, hold it for 3 seconds to clear it out, put it back on normal, push start again, and nothing happens. Then you move over to the next cycle over here, which may be delicates. You have an issue with your selector knob. Quick, easy test. And you figured it out within seconds. Put the part in, you're done and you're gone, right? Same thing down here. Your selector switches can go bad. Your temperature switch can go bad. Your load size can go bad. You put it on large load, and it doesn't fill up all the way. What could it be?
Water level sensor.
Water level sensor. Your low pressure sensor that senses the water level.
Or your tube could be off.
The tube could be off, but not normally, but it has happened. Somebody says, I'm filling up my washer, and water's running out on the floor. That tube on the side of the outer drum could actually be broke or off. So you may have to just order a tube and put it in place.
Or just cut a new line.
Or cut a new end and put it on there if there's enough space and access. So when you're going through the top load washer, you see that wrapped around one time on that back suspension rod. That's actually the extra access if you need. If you unwrap it, clip it back to the suspension rod without being wrapped around, you'll have a little extra link.
I thought it was wrapped around just to keep it away from the top.
Well, it's got a clip on it too, so what's the clip for then?
Well, all I know is when I put in that fourth damper, I don't even bother with it wrapped around. I use a tie wrap.
Well, a lot of them have a clip on them now, so you just put it in the clip. Yeah, but they still wrap it around and put a clip on it. So you can just take that clip off, unwrap it, cut it off, put a new good clean end on there, and clip it right back to that. You still got enough slack in there for that.
If you get that grease on some of those washing machines, very difficult. So,
It's hard to get off your hands. It takes a week to wear it off.
I bring multiple gloves, and I don't touch that machine.
Yeah, don't touch the suspension rods. They're covered with the silicone, a really thick, heavy silicone grease. So don't touch them. That's it gets on you. It's hard to get off. Okay. So the manual controls, also called electromechanical timers. So you have your electronic controls. You have your electromechanical timers. Any of that may not be working. Different sizes selectors on the switches may not be working. Different things like that you need to look at. And you can find that all out by testing them from the backside, see if they're getting the proper power. You can check your control board and all that other stuff. So you can check all that from your main control board. See if you have issues with it, and if it's getting power to it, then you need to start checking the board and see what functions within that board are actually failing. Okay? These are the different types of PCBs in here. What type of PCB is this one?
The top load.
Samsung.
Top load.
Actually, these are control boards for LG washers. These are some of the PCBs you see. These are the LED lighting setups and the timers. This right here, with this large capacitor and everything in it, is probably going to be your main logic control board.
Well, that does the control, doesn't it? Isn't that the sub PCB? That does the control panel and not the other?
Sometimes on LG, you'll find this one, and this one's sitting right behind it. Okay? So sometimes both of these will be right on the back of the control panel. but it depends on the model. Some of them have the control boards in the back, some of them have the control boards in the back on the bottom. You need to beware.
Simpson calls those the sub PCB.
It's sub PCB.
Yeah. You look for part.
So you got your control PCB, your sub PCB. So, okay, here's a PCB out of the Whirlpool washer. So you can look for burn marks on the PCBs. How did you learn that on that refrigerator yesterday?
We found that.
So on that refrigerator yesterday, we were doing some testing on some things, and what happened? Who can tell me?
Started smoking out.
Started smoking out. You can smell the smoke, you can see it a little bit. So we had a capacitor on that board that actually smoked. Set up a little smoke signal saying, I went bad. So the control board's no longer going to work. So you learned what that is, what that looks like a little bit, smell what that is. Good. Okay? So burning electrical smell and no power. And then some of the special call outs on these, you cannot repair them, you have to replace them if they fell. So don't ever try to take a soldering gun in there, solder something out and put it in because you think that's one little bitty part that's bad. You're not repair technicians as far as electronics is concerned, just put in a new board. Okay? So replace the control board, make sure that all the connectors and ribbon connections are back in place properly so that it functions correctly. How many times do we run Haas on any job?
Every twice.
Twice. When? Kara, when? Before and after. Very good. So you want to make sure that it's running before and that it runs after. Do it through the STG app so that it'll actually go back to Samsung and say, quote unquote, I ran Haas. Okay?
We get paid.
Next, we have two different types of water valves here. This is a multiple water inlet valve. What do you normally find right in this section of your water inlet?
Hot and cold.
Little screens, little filters, right? So somebody's pumping from a well and you pull that out and it's full of silicon and full of sand and full of calcium and different things. Do you take that screen out and just hook it back up normal?
No.
Why?
Screen filters everything out.
Filters doesn't produce.
Filter can get clogged.
So the filter can get clogged, you clean it out. If you take that screen out, what's going to happen to your cylinder valves over here? It's going to damage them, but have you ever seen one stick open and the water just keeps trickling in? Has a small sand particle in there because those are not very big valves anyway. So that little bitty small sand particle, that little bitty piece of rock or caoutchouc or whatever is in there is holding that valve open. So now you've got two problems. You need a new screen, a new filter for it, but you also need a new valve assembly. Well, those screens are like 25 cents a piece with that whole valve assembly. Who can tell me about what that costs? Huh?
It's like 200, ain't it? $2.26.
They're like 180 to 200 bucks.
Yeah. But I got a question about that, though.
Yeah.
So in Florida, we got well water, I guess, which is to my knowledge, I did not know that on that front Florida. Lady was having this problem with that washer, kept smelling. I was like, you left the door open, the front door, the door open, she cleaned it, she did everything possible, everything Samsung said do. Kept smelling. I never knew she had well water. She didn't know she had well water.
What?
So I guess
She must not be from Florida.
reporting saying Samsung will give her a new unit. Didn't say that. And so, but like, the problem wasn't, it was the well water. And Samsung was like, that's an issue.
Okay, so if it's the well water, it could be pulling up sulfur smell, it could be pulling up different things, right?
She probably needs some damn salt.
How do you solve some of this even before you get it to here? You can put a filter system in, but then that's going to cause another problem. What else can a filter system do?
Yep.
It'd be low flow, low water pressure. So you may have to bump up the pressure in your pressure tank for your well. Okay, some people run their pressure tanks about 60 PSI. They can actually take up to 120. So I always recommend if they put a filter system on, they run it up to about 90 PSI so that they have 75 PSI, which is a good operating pressure at their washer, okay? But you can put two types of filters on it. You can have one with a lime filter, a charcoal filter, and a micron filter. That's gonna pull out all your sediment that's anything a micron or greater, okay? And then the lime filter pulls out metals like lead, iron, stuff like that. And the charcoal pulls out the odor. So if you put a 3 filter or a 3 composite filter system in there, because you can get the lime and the charcoal in one filter size and the micron in the other, have 2 filters. Bump up your pressure a little bit and you solve that problem completely for that particular area of your house.
What's the 3 filters, charcoal, micron, and
Composite and lime, or lime filter. Lime pulls out the dissolved solids, pulls out the dissolved metals in the water. Okay? Okay, so water may be dripping into the tub. Again, that's why you're moving screens. I'll let you get by with it, they just got some sediment up into their, what does that call those valves? Solenoid valve, right? Okay? So they're in the solenoid valve, hold the solenoid valve open. Water flow could be low pressure because they put a filter system on there and then bump up their pressure. Or the city pressure may not be high enough to come in. The tub will not fill when washer is turned on. I've actually seen the sediment also get up in these and see them where they will not turn to open. So if they don't open, you have to replace it. So those filters on here are very, very important for the operation of your washer, right?
top load?
Valves can only open and close. Same thing on a refrigerator, guys. That solenoid valve only opens and closes. It doesn't determine pressure. It doesn't, squeeze down to help the water flow issue. It only opens and closes, so don't think it's going to do something different. Oh, we're gonna get the new one that does something different. It doesn't. They just open and close. Washers have multiple valves. Many of your Samsung washers has what? 3, maybe 4 valves in it, depending on the washer. If it's a top load, it usually only has 2.
Not always, sometimes you got that all.
Sometimes. But most of the time, they only have 2, and sometimes they'll have 3. On your top load, sometimes you can have up to 5 or 6.
Cold, warm, and hot. So there's a pretty lot.
There may be a mixing valve in there, yes. But a lot of times on top loads, there's not. They'll turn on the cold for a while, then they'll turn on the hot for a while, then they'll turn on cold for a while, then they'll turn on hot for a while. That's the way they're designed to work. But sometimes they do have a mixing valve. A lot of times your top loads have the mixing valve already in it. Okay?
I don't know why it says that.
Where it will take hot and cold, mix them together and put it in this form. Okay? Be aware there's different types. Don't assume they're all gonna be the same. They're not.
It's an easy house test. It will direct you right through those valves.
It is a very easy Haas test, and yes, it will. The Haas will save you lots of time, but as we learned the other day, does Haas show you everything?
No,
Does SCG show you everything?
no.
And then what do you got to rely on when it comes to something not working like that doesn't show you everything? Your own noodle up here, right? As you learn more, as you get more experienced in the field, you're going to learn more about these, okay? So let's keep moving. What are these?
Heater.
Heaters. What do heaters do?
Heats up the water in the washing machine.
They heat up the water in the washing machine. How much do they heat?
Small amount.
They heat small amounts. Are they designed to heat that water from 70 degrees to 150 to activate your bleach?
They just heat up the warm water.
So if you're using whites and you want to use bleach, you need to have 120 degree
He
water.
can't see you.
These are only designed to do a 30 to 40 degree rise in the water temperature, and that is all they're designed to do. They're not designed to superheat your water and make your clothes cleaner. That's not going to work that way, yeah, Karen.
So is that why that extra valve is in there, that bleach valve is in there, is because of that?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep, so you need hot water. If you would learn in dishwashers, since y'all weren't in the full virtual experience, learned in dishwashers, you have to have 120-degree water for the soap, the surfactant to actually wash and clean your clothes and to activate the enzymes correctly.
Yeah.
But some of these pods and stuff for your dishwasher also have a bleach additive in it also. The heater in your dishwasher nowadays are only designed to heat that water up that extra 30 degrees to activate the bleach properly. The bleach has to activate between 140 and 160 degrees. So it heats it up about 150 so that you get a good bleach clean on your dishes. The bleach sanitize. Not really. Bleach is designed to remove the stains and all. Sanitation happens at the start of the 120 degrees. Okay?
I did not know that.
Now bleach can and does kill germs, but that's not its primary purpose. It's actually to remove the stains and help the cleanliness of either of your clothes or your dishes. Okay? So those coffee stains you get at the bottom of your coffee cup, that's what some bleach is targeting when it comes to that. Okay? Enzymes won't break down those stains in the cup, but the bleach will. Enzymes is to break down the food and other particles. The enzymes and the surfactants in your laundry soap is designed to break down the greases and the other proteins and things that you might get in your clothing to help get those washed out, where the bleach is designed to actually take out any stain. So if you have pasta sauce on your shirt, it's designed to take out that stain. That's all it's designed to do. A lot of people think, oh, it's a great cleaning product, it kills a lot of germs. It does, but that's not originally what it's designed to do. Okay? So, you see how rusted this one is?
Yep.
I've actually seen these burned in too, but what else can you find wrong with your heater?
Rusty.
Huh?
Rusty?
They'll be rusty, they'll be corroded with particles from the water, they can have all sorts of things wrong with them. But say that heater's not heating up at all, what can you look for?
Bad connections?
Some of them have a temp sensor in them, there's no thermal fuse in them, but I would look right here. I would see if those terminals have burned off. I'd see if the wires burned in too, or the terminals burned off of it completely. Okay? A lot of times when it comes to this heater, it may be a wiring issue.
Neutral.
But if it's not a wiring issue, can you replace this heater?
Yes.
Without replacing the drum?
Yes,
Yes, you can.
Yes.
So is it just
Very
normal
easy.
wear and tear and corrosion on those terminals, obviously, because they're in their internal parts? that
Yep.
you're gonna see, okay.
Yep, a lot of normal wear and tear, corrosion.
Yeah.
Then again, you got that vibration in there, those wires are bouncing around, shaking around, those
Yeah,
wires will
those terminals.
eventually break into.
Like those, so the power wires that are going to those terminals can be checked.
Yes, you can check those, you can do continuity check and stuff on them. Okay? So, you check for error codes, some of these will have error codes on them, not all of them do, so be aware of that. You can test the thermistor, if it has a thermistor attached to it, you can test it. Okay? Less common is at the water inlet valve for hot water intake. Okay, so again, these are only designed to heat up 30 to 40 degrees for activation of your bleach and stuff. They're not designed to heat the water for cleaning. So if you want hot water, you need to put hot water in.
Yep.
Okay? Different types of drums. You've already